Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah.
You know, some days there isn't a lot of news, and we have to struggle to fill the FPV news, but today is not going to be one of those days. Is
Not
it,
even
Monty?
close. Not even close.
Because our favorite thing to do for the FPV news, if you go back to our early days, it was right when the original DJI system came out, and we probably talked about it for half the stream for months. And today we get to relive those glory days because a new DJI product has come out, and the world is on fire. Those two things are not
Absolutely.
necessarily related.
That's true.
Welcome to the FPV News, everybody. It's good to be here with you, and good to be here with you, Blunty, as always. Highlight of my week.
Yeah, absolutely. It is another wonderful Tuesday, another FPV News Day. Yeah, and we're here for you to do that.
Yeah. If you watched my review of the O3 Air Unit, which released this morning, we will not be just rehashing that for a half hour. But I do think we got to talk about this release. We can't do a news show without talking about it. And I'm interested to get some of your perspectives on some things that, on the whole thing. So we are going to talk about that. But before we do, we got just a couple things we're going to get to first. First, let me just say thank you guys. Welcome to the stream. Good to have you here. I'm reading your chats in the Discord server and in the chats. Did you see my Blunty? I don't know if you watched the weekend's live streams. Did you see my timeout party from Saturday?
I did not. I have not seen that yet. No.
Blunty does the live stream clips channel, so he watches all my streams and cuts out clips. At the end of the stream, I just kind of was just like, I'm just timing everybody out, and I just literally started timing everyone out. It was I don't know if you'll find it entertaining enough to make a clip out of, but now people are. If you see people asking to be timed out here, that's why. So
Fair enough.
okay. We're going to start off this week, Blunty, with a little correction.
Yes.
We almost never get anything wrong.
No, of course not.
But when we do, we like to set the record rate straight, especially when the aggrieved party goes way out of their way to call attention to it. Okay, yeah. So what are we correcting, Blunty?
Yeah, at the end of our Frsky rant that we did, I think about 3 weeks ago, I made it offhand a comment about somebody who I'm not going to bring up because they asked not to be brought up anymore, so we're not going to do that.
That's fair.
But I brought somebody up, and I said they had left the group due to them all being Frsky admins. So that was incorrect. Only one admin there is a Frsky admin, and the rest are other people who are not related to Frsky. So I wanted to correct that and let you know that the INAV fixed-wing group is not run by Frsky admins. There's only one Frsky admin there. So.
Okay. There's only one person associated with Frsky who's an admin of that group, and the rest of them are not. Well, I watched that clip back, Blunty, and I don't want to try to rehash it all. It seemed to me like you were saying Pavel Spakowski, the lead developer of INAV, has left the INAV group, and that was kind of like the big point. And then you said something about the Frsky admins, and that to me seemed subordinate to your main point. It seemed to me like your main point was correct, but I understand that if you felt that was inaccurate and you were being mischaracterized, you would focus on the one thing that was wrong.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
It's not a big deal. I wanted to let everybody know that was correct, and we can move on.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. I think I probably am wrong more often than you and have to do corrections more, not just on the news but in life. So
well, you also do a lot more videos and live streams than I do.
That's true. That's what I tell myself when I get something wrong. Like in the O3 video, I said that the antennas were not removable, which they definitely are easily removable. They don't screw off. You have to literally just pull them out. So if you didn't know that they were removable, then you would think you were breaking the goggles. But I also could have watched Mads Tech's teardown of the goggles, which I didn't do just because I didn't have an Avata and I didn't have the goggles yet. And I just got busy and now I'm making excuses for myself. The truth is I just got it wrong and now I'm going to have to issue a correction. So anyway, I'm going to tell myself it's because I put out so much content. We have a public service announcement as well. We put these right at the front because if they affect you, they probably affect you seriously. And this one has to do with ExpressLRS 3.1, which released, and apparently now it's unreleased. Is that right?
Yeah, there's some confusion I've seen from different users, so I wanted to clear up just to make sure everybody was understanding of what happened and why. So there was an announcement made in the ExpressLRS Discord. Jai let us know that there were some updating issues with 3.1. And because there were the updating issues, they went ahead and pulled it. They're going to release 3.1 when it's ready. They're trying to figure out exactly, how they can fix all that stuff. But basically, the gist of it is, if you were trying to flash 3.1 and you're having issues, this is why. They understand it and they pulled it so nobody else will have those issues. The main thing here is that if you've already flashed 3.1, you're fine. That is my understanding. The only concern is if you are trying to flash it. So a lot of people are saying I have 3.1. Should I be concerned? Should I roll back? Are there problems? My understanding is no, there's not. You can't flash it now until the new one comes out.
I had a situation recently where I flashed 3.1 to one of my Ranger modules. And then I just took it to the field. I plugged it into the back of my radio and it didn't bind, which was very confusing to me because you flash it with your bind phrase and then it just works. Could I have stumbled into this flashing issue without realizing it?
I'm not 100% clear on what the flashing issues are. Maybe there's an ExpressLRS dev in the chat. I had heard people were bricking or otherwise having problems where they needed to use FTDI to get back out of it.
Wow.
And that was why it was pulled, but I may be incorrect on that. So.
Okay. Eric Toft says, that explains my 3 bricked modules. If Eric Toft bricked modules, that's a bad sign because Eric's a pretty sharp cookie.
That's my understanding. I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that's why it was pulled because it was an actual issue like bricking stuff. Wow. So.
Well, welcome to the wild world of ExpressLRS. You got to want to ride that bull if you want.
We should also say, I don't believe this has happened with a release yet in the entire ExpressLRS existence. So it's bound to happen once or twice where there's some hardware incompatibilities that slip through the testing. This is just one of those cases. So.
Yeah, I mean, and if you can get it back via FTDI flash, it is recoverable, although it is pretty annoying if you aren't familiar with FTDI adapters and stuff to have to go through that process. So there you go. Well, it sounds like they did the right thing, and that certainly is good. So, okay. Now we come to, and I think we're going to spend, what, like 45 minutes, 50 minutes on this, Blunty? Like the whole hour?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see where we get to. I don't think we're going to do that. Yeah.
Okay. DJI O3 Air Unit released today.
Yeah, for sure. Released today. If somehow you didn't hear, the new DJI Air Unit is out. It's a sequel to the DJI FPV DIY system, the Air Units in Vista. So now we've got a new Air Unit. I've got a bunch of videos linked in the description. We've got your video, a bunch of other videos. We've got some hacks and some performance tips and different things that are in there. A bunch of good links for you and some information. And we're just going to review some of that for you as we go through here. So a couple different things. Basically, I guess we should go over specs, right? That's probably the best place to start.
Let's start, because that's the big difference between the previous generation and now. So the big spec that got an upgrade, 1080p resolution instead of 720p or 810p.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So if you got goggles 2, the new goggles, you can do 1080p, 100 frames a second in those. And that's going to get you 30 milliseconds of latency. And Chris Rosser tested that. We've got a link to his video as well in the description. And then if you've got a V2 goggle, instead you get 810p, so you get a lower resolution, but you get that higher frame rate because that goggle can do 120 frames a second.
Right.
And that's going to get you a little lower latency. You haven't seen that tested. DJI is calling that 2 milliseconds faster.
Yeah. So I think it's really cool that they included backwards compatibility like this. When I updated my V2 goggles, it took me a minute to figure out how to bind them to the O3 Air Unit. But you have to put them into DJI drone mode, which I never do because I don't have the potato anymore. And then you flash them from DJI drone mode, and then that flashes new firmware to the goggles, which when you go to settings about, you can switch not just between DJI FPV drone and the FPV system, but also the O3 Air Unit and bind to it. And once you do that, the experience of using the goggles is largely identical. And it was just like, it's clear it wasn't just like a half-baked, like DJI doesn't really half-bake many things, but I was pretty impressed. It feels like they're committed to the V2 goggles in a way that I wouldn't have guessed until I saw how much work they clearly put into this.
Yeah, absolutely. It does seem like it's not like half-baked, it's not. So, and that's good. And then the other thing, we got today an update, for everybody, it's not even out yet, but the reviewers and everybody got an update for 4K, 100 and 120. So previously the highest recording mode on this was 4K 60. And that meant, for people that don't know, basically you're locked to the bracket sort of that you're flying in to record in.
Right.
So if I want to record it, if I want to record at 4K 60 or 4K 50, I need to fly in high quality mode. And that's going to be the lower frame rate, higher quality, higher latency.
Well, and this is confusing because they don't give you a menu option, low latency, high quality. Whatever frame rate you set for the onboard recording, whether you're doing onboard recording or not, that controls the frame rate and therefore the latency that you get back to your goggles. And this matters because if you want to run at 100 frames per second or 120 FPS for the lowest possible latency, but you won't get as much motion blur, for example, in your onboard recording if you decide to do that.
And that also ties into things like EV balance, like white, all those kind of different things that you're setting for your action cam or you're setting for your camera to get your video for your recording is going to all affect that feed that you're seeing through the goggles.
Absolutely. This is one of the things that we've talked about previously, a potential downside of combining your FPV cam and your action cam, which is you may want like cinematic action cam, but you with your FPV camera, you just want to be able to see where you're freaking going. And combining those things doesn't always give you the best results. I have to say, though, I was really impressed, having been completely disgusted with the Action 2. I was pretty impressed with the quality of the footage out of this thing. If I was just a freestyle pilot ripping around, I would seriously consider not using GoPros and just using this instead.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I've seen a lot of, we got some videos linked and stuff of people talking about the comparisons, between GoPros and this. It does seem like, I think for a large amount of people, this will be a good option for them because they don't really need, the best video possible. They just need a good quality video that's really good to show people, Like a lot of the videos I saw were that onboard recording, and they didn't need to bring a GoPro. They were comparing them, and there wasn't a whole lot of difference, especially in the environments and the settings and the situations and stuff. So.
Yeah, for sure.
That's pretty. Also, we should just say like 20 gig onboard. We asked for that, and we got working onboard recording. It seems like,
Yep.
And the SD card slot as well, which I was worried we would give up for that onboard recording.
Yep.
We got full OSD, full MSP Displayport,
full Betaflight OSD.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
What people are calling Canvas. We just want to, it's MSP Displayport, right. But yeah,
it's not Canvas mode technically.
Correct.
Even DJI calls it Canvas mode. That's probably our fault as much as anybody's. Thank you. Dominic Clifton was the one who set me straight about it actually being MSP Displayport and not Canvas mode. I have tried to correct myself every time I say it. We got a lot of stuff that it's weird because DJI, you're like, DJI, you could snap your fingers and do anything you wanted. You have more money than God. You have so many engineers. And you're like, can we please have these three things that we want? And they're like, yeah, maybe. And then 2 years later, they release a whole new product and they give you all the things you wanted. And you're like, okay, but why did I have to wait this long? It's just how they operate. But they did. They gave a lot of things that we wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what else we got. So, go ahead.
Johnny 5 pointing out the price also. I heard $300 originally. Then I heard $260. It came out at $229.
Yeah, the week price was $250 to $300, and I heard that $250 right up until release, including a foreign website that had posted a price at $254, and another one that posted $259. I wondered if that was a last minute change or just some of the places that had listed incorrectly. But either way, yeah, it's definitely better than I think we had expected it to be. Still going to be steep, and a lot of people are still going to be a little upset at the price, but I think it's pretty good compared to where we thought it would land, and for the upgrade in quality, it seems like.
And here's the thing, though. Here's the argument, and not everybody's going to agree with this argument, but whenever I'm thinking about these products, I'm thinking about who is the person who is going to love this. And there's somebody out there who will love every product. This is a significant improvement in terms of video link quality. Resolution, the latency is a little worse, but the range, penetration, and resolution are a significant step forward. And theoretically, some people are going to ditch their GoPro and they're going to get a quadcopter that is between 70 and 150 grams lighter, right? A huge reduction in weight. And theoretically, you're not going to break this camera as much as you break a GoPro because it's not hanging out there.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things to discuss, right?
And if you do break it, it's $100, the price of a Runcam Orange.
Yeah, $109 for a replacement camera, so that's great to hear. We've got that linked in the description as well. One thing I'll say, though, is it does seem like there are issues in frames. So depending on what frame you're using, it seems like you're kind of fighting with how far forward to put it so you don't see standoffs, right?
That's, yeah. So it has to go.
My concern is that a lot of people are going to put it too far forward. Like Vanover seemed like he was flying at a point where he could have broken it. So that would be my only concern is if people are putting it too far forward, you're going to break a lot of these that you would not expect to break from a camera inside your frame.
That's valid. And part of that, I think, is because of the wide field of view. It means it basically has to be flush with the standoffs in order to avoid seeing them.
Yeah, because I think we're seeing a lot of those frames with 20 or 20.5 spacing for the old camera, right? But you still had 19 millimeter standoffs in front, like the 19 millimeter spacing. So you're just seeing those standoffs.
I know that Vanover has a redesign of his Vandy style frame where the front is specifically designed to accommodate the camera. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that.
Yes.
And of course, time will tell. But I think at a price of $229, and especially if it lets you, the thing is, if it was just an upgraded Air unit, and it cost $229, and it gave you 1080p, and it gave you better penetration and range and so forth, and all this stuff, and didn't have the onboard recording, I think some people will be like, yeah, $229, I'll go for it. Not a lot. But I think that if you add into the onboard recording and the people who could potentially stop carrying around GoPros, I think adoption is going to be more.
And DJI has made this an easy buy for anybody with a V2. Like, I think that's part of this too, right?
Yeah.
So a couple different things I just want to get out there so anybody who's listening to this knows it. If you do update to the new firmware in the V2 goggles, it's just like it was before. As long as you rooted before you did that, the root can still be applied afterwards, and it still works the same. So you get your OSD on your old units. Just so in case you're worried about that, there's no like backpedal on that. There's talk about it being dual band. The OcuSync 3 Air Unit is only dual band if you're using a radio. So it does talk to the goggles for some reason to do telemetry on 2.4 gigahertz. Like the goggles will talk to the O3 Air Unit, but only if you're using a radio. And we don't really know why. Yeah, Matt's is trying to figure that out.
The goggles only use 5.8 is what it seems like you're saying.
Yeah. They for some reason the goggles transmit a 2.4 gigahertz signal if the radio is on, and we don't know why. Because the radio and goggles both transmit that. But generally speaking, the video and all that communication and the hacking and everything seems to all be done over 5.8, and you should not need dual band if you needed to change. That's what it seems like, unless you're using the radio. And for some reason, it seems like the goggles are doing something with 2.4 with the radio, so MadTech is going to dig into that more.
Okay. A couple other questions are coming in, stuff that we might want to mention. You can't use the motion controller. That requires integration with the Avata flight controller, when obviously Betaflight can't do that. So that's a no. No audio. Yeah, some people are going to... It has an audio jack. It has a headphone jack. And I was like, what's the headphone jack for? And they were like, oh, well, and here's a feature I didn't cover in my review. If you put video files on the SD card, you can play back like movies from the SD card inside the goggles.
I think you can... Okay. I think the goggles too also have wireless DLNA, so you can transmit wireless video to them, and you can probably audio
stream
there.
From your phone. And I was like, is that stupid? Yeah. Or is it like I'm on an airplane and I want to watch a movie? It's a brilliant screen. It's a beautiful screen.
An airplane is like an interesting use case.
So I've got my phone. I want to watch a movie. Maybe the movie's not quite acceptable for watching in public. So I put my DJI goggles in, I put my headphones in, and I start streaming it from my phone to my goggles, and then I can, enjoy my film. I'm like, okay, DJI. I was like, it's not, somebody's going to use that, but it's kind of a weird thing for them to have done, but okay.
A couple of other questions from the chat. We talked before about a light goggle. I think we talked about that last week, where there was a leak from Osita and another group who were talking with Deals Drone, who were saying that there's a light goggle coming. That light goggle is, from my understanding, definitely legitimate. I've heard that from multiple sources now. And it's just coming later at some point. I don't know what the price is. All we've heard is that it doesn't have the touchpad and it doesn't have motion tracking in the head. I would expect it to be cheaper, but how much cheaper, we don't know yet. So.
The Mouse FPV raises a good point. GoPro, I only need one for all my quads, but I need like $1,500 in air units to replace one Hero 7. That's not true for me.
I mean, but also if you're already buying the air unit, I think is the point here, right? Like, so if in this case, you would be saying you would be perfectly happy with buying the $100 or $150 air unit Vista, right? And then saying like, okay, that price difference is worth me having the GoPro instead.
So
right?
What you have to do, you have to count on, say you would buy a Nebula Pro for $160, right?
Yeah.
So then now you're going to buy the air unit, the O3 Air Unit for $230. That is a $70 uptick. So you're not paying $230 per quad. You're paying an additional $70 per quad. So you could make the argument that this is cheaper than buying a Runcam Orange for every single one of your quads. And you could say, well, I wouldn't buy one Runcam Orange for all of my quads. I'd buy one or two or three. Okay, there's a break-even point there. That's valid.
I think for me, it's the question of like, your 70 is buying you better quality, signal, penetration, everything, and it's buying you the GoPro, right? Like, I think that's where I'm at with it. Like, I would be buying it with the GoPro stuff as extra. Then maybe that's 20 or 30 of the value there if you're comparing it to the whole package.
Yeah. So I think there's no question that the new system is worth something more than the old system, just in terms of its transmission. It's pure utility as an FPV system. So what does this mean, Blunty? People who want the specs and want the breakdown can get it from the review videos. Oh, what were you going to say?
I got one more thing I don't think you're going to hear in most videos, and that is just that the one difference really, other than OLED and 1080p between the Goggles 2 and the V2, right, and other than this 120 versus 100 FPS deal, right, is that is a deal because you can only record 4K 120 with older goggles. Like, that's weird, right? I think we could both say that's weird. Mm-hmm. But the other difference is that Goggles 2 do H.265. Mm-hmm. And so that means when you record on them, they're recording the screen. They're actually recording the physical screen output. So you get OSD and you get kind of everything you're seeing on the screen with your goggles. Totally different than the V2 will record. The V2 will record like the old style. You get the feed like you do, but you don't get the OSD. And then the other difference is that the V2 are receiving an H.264 versus the H.265 with new goggles. New goggles have a new chip, the E3T chip. And that E3T chip enables that H.265 processing, encoding, whatever. And that also, from what I'm hearing and from testing, it seems like in some cases in lower bit rates, it's going to be better at hanging onto that bit rate because the encoding can give you a better signal or a smoother signal with less data.
I was really impressed with the Goggles 2 when I did my little flying up the road semi-range, not really test, that it got down to like 3 megabits per second. And the image was like, I was like, wow. Normally with the V2 goggles and the Vista, if I get down below 4 or 5 megabits per second, I'm like, this is done. I got to come home. It was at 3 megabits per second. And I was like, this is really pretty. I mean, it was stuttery, but it was surprisingly flyable image. And when I did the same thing with the V2, it was not as good. And I blamed that on the antennas, but it sounds like there's an encoding difference as well, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's my understanding anyways. That extra chip is giving them some extra kind of legwork there to get you better video at that lower bit rate. So
all right. So let's wrap up this segment by discussing, let's provide some commentary, like we haven't already. What does this mean for FPV, for people like for Walksnail, HDZero, DJI, even analog? Like, how does this change the landscape, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know. Like, it's good, but then the question is, how much better is it, right? So, like, one thing it's going to change is people weren't sure if we were going to get a future of DJI, right? We've thought long and hard about, like, hey, is DJI gonna fix us, like take care of us in the future? Are they gonna provide updates? Are they gonna do basically what's going to happen with our future? We thought Vistas were going to go away, and then RunCam said they're going to provide us Vistas, and we're worried about compatibility and all this kind of stuff. One thing we didn't show, can you show real quick our link? I've got highlighted there. This showed up, and I just want to point this out real quick while we're talking about DJI. This is a picture that somebody leaked on Chinese social media of the DJI Goggles 2, an update that's coming that shows extra compatibility, and this is our somewhat proof of back compatibility that DJI said was coming. So it looks like we're going to be getting the back compat to the DJI Goggles 2 for the old Air Units and Vistas like they had promised us. At least that's what this is showing. So
yeah, I see that. And I can confirm this is the interface. I mean, where you select what you want to bind to. Mine only has O3 Air Unit and Avata, but that is what I would think it would look like when it became available. So this feels legit.
Yeah, and this shows also just the Mini 3 Pro, and so it kind of gives us a better perspective there. We had heard before that there were going to be other drones added to the goggles as well, and it does seem like that is the case. So
yeah, very interesting stuff. I still maintain my wait and see perspective on that, because
but there's a firmware somewhere with that happening, so that means somebody's done some work. That's the way I look at that. Yeah.
I just like, there's always little. Anyway, all right. So how does this change the landscape?
Yeah, so basically, with that being in mind and all this other stuff, I think that it basically puts anybody who's using DJI or wants to use DJI in a better footing. Like, we still don't trust DJI forever, right? They're still a slimy billion-dollar company, but they do seem to be supporting us, right? They gave us full OSD, which we asked for. They gave us 4K recording modes at 120, which we asked for. They gave us onboard storage, which we asked for. That's good. It doesn't break. There's a lot of pieces here that we were asked. H.265 was something people 100%. Asked for.
Let's also not forget that they gave us how do I put this? They gave us a system that freaking works on day one.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the release of this system and you look at the release of the Walksnail system, and it just shows that there's a lot more than just, buy some chips and slap them on a circuit board. It's all people say it's all SOCs. You don't need to do any work. And this clearly shows that that's not true, that this is a solid system. Okay, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice not to be treated as beta testers. That's right, Coben Weston.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if we compare many of the other releases we've seen, even the original DJI release, this is so much cleaner than it was. So
yeah,
we got a usable firmware at launch.
Jonas Trussman says, yeah, and all it took was delaying it like 5 times. Hey, you can't have it both ways, though.
Yeah.
Either
I mean, they do right, exactly.
Yeah. Better that they delayed it and they got it right, I would say.
I 100% agree with that. So
right.
This is what we see from a delay. We see a clean release where everybody can get what they need, and there's a bunch of people with it, and we can get videos on it. We know information about it at launch, and as opposed to a very similar but totally different release we had from Fat Shark with the Avatar system. You know what I mean? It's like polar opposites. It feels like nobody had that system. Nobody was prepared for it. Nobody knew anything about it. It was all hidden in secret. They didn't give any information. And this is feels like the total opposite.
So I don't think this really has any effect on HDZero, minimal effect on HDZero, because the kind of people who love HDZero and think it's the best want things that just are they're not going to get from DJI. And I think this has some effect on Walksnail, because Walksnail has always been able to claim, oh, we have 1080p. DJI doesn't have 1080p, but now DJI does. And in terms of just pure performance of the video system, this just trounces anything Walksnail has to offer. Sorry, Walksnail. I mean, the V2 system is, in my opinion, usually better than what the Walksnail system does. So this is better than that. I do think Walksnail has some advantage in that they've got the 1S video transmitter, and their Walksnail is bumping up against HDZero a little bit. But
well,
I think
I would say things like, Walksnail gave us full OSD on the product before, right?
True.
And Walksnail has been very adamant about adding and changing and setting and moving and doing everything that we were asking for. I feel like we're going to get this from DJI this time, and then 2 months later we're going to get another chunk, and then 2 months later we're going to get another chunk. Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's always how it is.
Yeah,
but right now there's a new shiny thing that does everything I want.
Sure, 100%. I just think in 3, 6, 9 months, Walksnail is going to keep, hopefully, we're all hoping, that Walksnail will be continually doing stuff, continually pushing, continually doing new products and figuring stuff out and talking to users and doing more support, that they will find an edge in that aspect. But I do agree that, we got the new shiny thing and it looks real good.
They just have to get their damn video performance. They have to get their damn video link up, It's better. It's very good. I wish it were as good as, it were better.
People are asking for a poll in your YouTube chat about who ordered the unit. I think that's a good poll, because I saw a lot of people ordering today.
Start a poll.
Yeah.
What's the
poll?
Maybe
I think, how many OcuSync 3 Air units did you order today? Put 0, 1, and then 2 to 3 or 2 to 4, and then 5 to 8 or something. Or 5 plus.
1.
I think we got to give people 1, because I think some people want to test it, right?
Well, especially people with the V2 goggles can just pick one up and try it out. That's pretty slick.
Yeah.
6 to 10. How about that?
Yeah, 10. Well, plus whatever, that works. Cool.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's finish up that topic and move on to something else. We got a lot to talk about. And now we are going to talk about the Walksnail system, which is a thing that Walksnail can do that DJI, as far as we know, can't do.
That is correct. We have not seen a range test yet on the new O3 system. But what we do have is a new test of the Walksnail system by Wesley Vardy, the man who took it to 31 kilometers before, has now taken it to a 40-kilometer limit. 40 kilometers. He turned around because he had to get back to work.
Yeah, so he could have gone further.
Yeah, he could have. It seems like he could have gone further. He just sort of gave up,
Well, and the reason this is significant is because the V2 DJI system has a range limit at 13.3 kilometers. It just stops working, and we don't know exactly why or how. It's not. There's no GPS in the unit, so there's no way it actually knows your distance to home. It's estimating it like based on latency or something, and for some reason it just cuts out. So it's just a non-starter for long range. And what this shows is that Walksnail is viable for true long range, because as far as we can tell, as long as you put bigger antennas on it, and you could just fly as far as you have signal.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Good to see. Yes. People keep asking, like, oh, is there a limit? And so far, 40 kilometers is longer than I think almost anyone is going to fly their stuff. So
yeah, we don't know if the O3 DJI system has such a limit. As far as I know, no one's tested it. But DJI is a little bit. They're a little worried about like governments and security agencies being mad at them. So wouldn't be surprised to learn that there was such a limit, just so you couldn't fly all the way across the world and get into trouble, and then get DJI in trouble.
Yeah.
So. All right, somebody get Wesley Vardy an O3 Air Unit so he can test it. All right. We talked about DJI and we talked about Walksnail, so who's that leave?
Walksnail, because we got one more Walksnail story. There's a Fat Shark has announced a Walksnail box goggle.
I'm sorry. I screwed up the titles.
Yeah, so the Recon HD. Again, with the bad naming, I feel like they really got to figure out new names for their products. But the Recon HD is being launched, and this is going to be a built-in avatar system, Walksnail system, to a 3.5-inch panel, 1080p, 44-degree FOV, but 60 frames a second. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a little bit of a loss there. It sounds like you can only fly in that 60 frames a second mode. But otherwise, kind of interesting. $279.99 right now for pre-order through Rotorriot and other retailers. So kind of interesting. $279.99. What do you think of $280 for these box goggles? What do you think?
This is a tough one. So I should say, Rotorriot sent me a set and I reviewed them, so I have them. So when I reviewed them, here was my thinking. You could get a set of SkyZone Cobra X goggles for $250, which is one of the best analog box goggles you can get. And so it feels like $260 to $280 for a high-end set of analog. Like, it's 1080 resolution on the screens. That's high-end for box. That's high-end. It's hard to say high-end box goggles. Feels kind of wrong, but that's what these are. It feels like that's the price where box goggles of this spec come in. And that's with an analog receiver, right? Nobody thought that the Cobra X was a bad deal at $260, and that's with an analog receiver. So now you're going to give me essentially the same goggle, but with a Walksnail receiver, which is objectively a more expensive piece of hardware. And you could say, okay, that's fine. But only being able to do 60 FPS is a shame, because it means you're stuck at that higher latency mode. I don't know.
I think my biggest caveat here is they did the same thing they did on the Dominator HDs, and they didn't give you any other option for input.
Of course they did.
All these needed is an aux jack and an HDMI in, and they would suddenly be an amazing option, personally. Absolutely. Right? 60 frames isn't the best, but it's something, and it's a $280 box goggle with a VRX inside of it. Absolutely. Like, I think there would have been a niche bracket there, and you could have found a much bigger audience by tacking on $20 or $30 worth of hardware, whatever at the most, right? Whatever it would have cost to add those components. So, it is unfortunate that they didn't do that, and I think it's a single solitary piece of hardware that you can't do anything else with at $280. I think it's a little harder sell for me, especially 60. If this was 100, easier sell. If this was had inputs, easier sell. But I think for me, we're just on the edge of I don't see the value. Even
the SkyZone Cobra X's, which are analog goggles, have an HDMI input.
Exactly.
So you have the option to do other things with them. If you compare these goggles to the standalone VRX, obviously the standalone VRX doesn't technically exist yet as a product that you can hold in your hands.
I think they've said $199 is the
right.
The VRX standalone price later, once they're out of all the sales.
You still have to figure out what kind of goggles or display you're going to use, so you're going to spend more money. Yeah. The kind of person who's going to buy this is a person who is 100% committed to Walksnail. They're not interested in analog, or they are, maybe they have a separate set of analog goggles. They don't mind that this is dedicated, and they want to get into Walksnail. This is the lowest price point to get into Walksnail unless you have another set of goggles already.
I have a question. I don't own Walksnail, so maybe you can tell me. How does spectating work on Walksnail?
It doesn't. It's in the menu, but it does. It didn't. They're working on it.
Okay. So let's say this. If they get spectator, then this might be a good spectator set, right?
Yeah, could see it.
Right. Because then if you have a spouse or another person, or you want to ride along and you don't want to spend there's no reason to spend $199 plus another goggle.
But here's the thing.
There might be a world where you spend $280, right?
Since you have HDMI out with Walksnail, you don't really need spectator goggles. You could just use a television.
It's also true, but you have to buy the VRX. That's what I'm saying. So I guess you could split it.
You don't. You just plug your goggles into the television.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I see, and you do both. So your other person gets to watch while I see.
I mean, you can do that. You could do that.
Yes.
You don't need a dedicated set of goggles with a separate receiver. You just use the HDMI out. I think that's why they haven't prioritized audience mode very much, because they kind of have a solution. The people are asking for us to finish the poll. Let me finish the poll. 62. I should have put 0. I didn't put 0 as an option. Oops.
Oh,
it was a little bit oversight. That was my bad.
Okay.
62% bought 1, 20% bought 6 to 10, and 2 to 5 bought 17 with 95 votes. There are currently 628 people in the chat, so we have about 1/6 of the people in the chat bought at least one.
That seems significant.
Yeah, for sure.
On launch day, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
Okie
dokie. Continuing.
So now we can get to the next digital system. And another box goggle. This is a good tie-in together. We've got Emax is making an HDZero box goggle, which is pretty interesting. We've talked before. We've asked for people to make hardware for HDZero. And now we've got an HDZero box goggle coming from Emax. The Transporter 2 goggles, basically, but with HDZero inside.
Sure, why not? Transporter 2 are fine goggles. I mean, it depends on the price.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the price comes in and stuff, but more options is always better. And it's cool to see another company hopping into that HDZero train.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we have Frsky and Emax in addition to HDZero themselves.
Yeah. And then also Foxy are teasing that Race VTX. I don't think they've released it yet.
I'm not holding. We'll see when that happens.
Yeah.
We got 2 antennas.
Oh yeah, true. I wonder if there's patches inside or if it's just the 2. I'm not sure.
Well, I think that Frsky at least just uses 2 antennas on its handheld receiver. We don't know whether Emax is doing the same.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. We'll see what the price is. We don't know the price, though, do we?
No, just got announced. We don't even have specs on it yet, but we just wanted to let people know that was coming and give a shout out to Emax for doing that for sure.
Great. So. Very exciting.
I put these out of order. I forgot. We had one more Walksnail little thing we wanted to point out, which was just about confidence in the Dominator system. And we saw a post by Pyrodrone for a discount for the Dominators for Black Friday, down to $450. That was kind of interesting.
Wow, that's a big. When I first saw this, my first thought was not, "Oh, this is a Black Friday sale," and maybe it is a Black Friday. I don't know. That's the time when people knock things down. But when I first saw this, my thought was they're not selling, and Serge is sick of having him on his shelf and wants to get rid of him. I don't know if that's just me.
One thing I'll say, and maybe this changed from Fat Shark or there's some confusion, is, RDQ put out their Dominator discount, $150 discount, just like this. Mm-hmm. But then they flipped it and immediately changed it to a gift card in addition and put the goggles back at full price. Mm-hmm. My assumption of that was because of what do you call it? No, I'm blanking. But your minimum cost. You're only allowed
MAP.
Your
advertised price.
So my assumption was they got in trouble for being under MAP and they had to change it. But I don't know if that's the case or not. But Pyrodrone doesn't seem to have that problem. So.
Yeah, well, I don't know how aggressively Walksnail enforces their MAP. Yeah. Some vendors are more aggressive than others.
This would be Fat Shark. That's the
Shark
difference.
would probably enforce this pretty aggressively.
That's what I was thinking. And the thing is, like, for RDQ to put out a sale and then change the sale that they already told people about, it seems like they probably got told to do that. So
maybe. And we know that Serge is not afraid to speak his mind. He previously was the one who complained about the dealer margin on the HDZero stuff. And he basically said, and a lot of people won't talk shop in public, but he was like, look, here's how much money I make on this. I'm losing money on this. So it seems like if Serge felt like these goggles weren't moving and was tired of having inventory, he would just be like, yeah, what are you going to do? Not give me any more goggles that won't sell? That's my impression of him.
But we don't know that. We're just speculating.
We don't know that. That's speculation. But if you did want to pick them up, they're $450 from Pyrodrone. So yippee.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like at this point in November, everybody's got some kind of sale on Walksnail or Avatar. Yeah. If you're trying to get it. So
there's the link. It's not even an affiliate link. I thought about sharing this link, and I was like, this has got to be close to his cost. I don't know what his cost is, but I was like, I would feel bad putting out an affiliate link with this, trying to like, oh, give me my 6% or whatever.
Yeah,
5%.
Get the extra percent out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't do that. But anyway, there you go. Yeah. We don't know what that means, but there they are.
Yeah.
I wonder if the standalone receiver is going to really pull the floor out of the Dominator sales.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it has to have taken a chunk, especially at the discounts. So
yeah. Alrighty. Next up, we've got some news about DRL.
Yeah, DRL Level 2, the second race has concluded, and I know that might sound weird to you, but this was the second DRL race. For some reason, DRL decided to show the Level 2 race first. So I would just ask you not to go to the very end so we don't see the season standings.
You know what? I'm not going to play any of this because DRL is... I wouldn't be surprised if I got a freaking copyright strike from DRL. Actually,
but suffice to say,
takedown.
We had the Level 2. So this is the first televised.
Not because they're like bad people. I'm sorry. Hang on. Not because they're like horrible people who they'll strike me. Just because they're kind of corporate, and if they 100%. Haven't cleared it, okay. Yeah, I don't want people to take that the wrong way.
They're run by a cryptocurrency. I mean, what?
No, let's not even talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to apologize. I don't think you have to apologize.
Okay, I just wanted I wanted to impugn them in the way I meant, not the way you might have imagined. Okay. Continue.
I feel like there's a lot of places you could apologize, but DRL is not one you need to apologize for in that.
Fair enough.
In that aspect. But what we do want to let you know, and again, this is going to be a spoiler for the race. If you haven't seen it, obviously that's how this works because we're going to let you know the results. So that being said, if you check our second link there, our imager link, we've got the results for you from this race. We're not going to spoil anything else because for some reason, again, this is the second race. We don't know why. They're showing the first race later. I think.
What are you telling me? They wait. They haven't showed the first race yet, but instead they showed the second race.
They showed only the finals from the second race. For some reason, they decided that was a good idea, so that's what we got. But we do have the results from the finals of the second race, and that was Halo Walker being dominant in 4 out of 6 heats and winning the final race, the Golden Heat, to beat Vanover. Vanover got 2 heats, and Halo Walker got 4. So we got Halo Walker in first, Vanover in second, and MTK pulling in the third there. So
Halo Walker is he's a handsome dude. I didn't know that.
And something I was going to say, I pointed out before the show, we talked a little bit about this, was just that, Halo Walker is dominant in the sim. That's what he does.
Yeah. No,
he's the sim guy. So, and this is
that's how he got
stuff.
in. That's how he got in,
exactly.
Isn't it? He was a sim scene.
100%. So I think it'll be pretty fascinating to see, this is going to be another half sim season, half real life season. And he's already dominating in the first real life season race we got to see. So, I think he's got really good chance this season.
I know. I would say that Vanover is weaker in the sim than he is in real life. I think that's probably not controversial. And I think it's largely because he just isn't that interested in flying in the sim. He likes to fly.
You just have to put in so many hours, you just really have to put in
hours and hours. Yeah. And so if Halo Walker is holding his own in the real life races, I think he's going to have an edge in the simulated races.
Yeah.
How about Min-Chen Kim being at third place, which I think third place is certainly respectable, but I think he has such a reputation. I think people probably expected him to just come in and clean up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know what he's thinking, but it's a new environment and a new thing he's doing. It's televised. There's cameras everywhere. Everybody's all excited after every round and yelling and screaming and talking to each other and getting up and, I think that it's just a different environment, and it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to that over time. I would assume that's why. I mean, we know from watching him and seeing his performance that he's extremely fast pilot, but I think he might just have to fall into his groove there.
Yeah. Well, I think we saw that a little bit when Vanover's first season, that like there's all these interactions. First of all, it's just a different style of racing than multi-GP racing. You got to sort of figure out your groove. But then like when Nurk brought in a picture of Vanover's mom and put it in front of there's all these head games going on with the pilots too, because it's a television show. I think it'll be interesting to see where MCK finishes this season, like whether he really will the story be that he starts out, he finds his feet, and then he sort of comes from third place to be in first. I was going to say comes from behind, but he takes it and, wins in the end. Or will it be that his first season is kind of like he never really gets it, and then only in like the second season we get to see his sort of redemption arc? I don't know.
Yeah. We should say, I mean, this is third is still obviously very close. He just wasn't winning heats. So,
right.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, like you said, how it goes and how things move on. So we'll definitely be covering it. We'll let you know as the races happen. And you can always find out on DRL.com. They did what I asked, so I'm letting you know that. If you go to DRL.com currently and you go to their page for races, they have links to all their social medias, and they are now broadcasting on YouTube as opposed to just Twitter and NBC like they used to. Twitter was region locked, and so you couldn't watch it if you lived somewhere else without a VPN. YouTube is not, from what I understand. So you can now watch the races from anywhere.
Oh, Halo Walker's in the chat too. Congratulations, Halo Walker. Keep up the good work, man.
Yeah.
I got to play Velocidrone Combat with Halo Walker a while back before he was on DRL, I believe, if my memory's correct. I was like, I was just like, hey, anybody want to play some Velocidrone Combat? And then this random dude from my Discord server came in, and I was like, oh, this guy's good. He's fast. He's a really good pilot. And then he was on DRL like a month later. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, apparently he's fast. So, all right. Well, maybe we'll get to see race number 1, although now we already know the results. So, what are you doing, DRL? The blockchain released the episodes out of order.
Yeah. Hopefully they get that all figured out and everything is in order from now on. So, yeah.
Nice. Next up, we've got a community spotlight. We like to focus on we haven't actually done a ton of community spotlights lately, Blunty. I'm glad we have one.
Yeah, we have one from an old favorite for the community spotlight spot. Ridwan Hughes, Haku 3D, is back in the news, back in the community spotlight. He has made a universal T antenna mount. So basically, if you know Haku 3D, he's got all these folding mounts and different styles of crisscross and fold and all these things to mount your receivers. He designs them specifically for different components, right? So they fit really well, and they mount nice on your quad. And this is no different. This is a set of T antenna mounts for standoffs, and you can basically get your T antenna nice in position behind your quad on your standoff, so without too much problem.
And the cool thing about this is that it works with basically any T-style antenna: Crossfire, Ghost, ExpressLRS, all of them. Whereas previously he kind of contoured them to the exact shape of the antenna. And like if you had a weird, like especially with ExpressLRS these days, a whole lot of manufacturers are making antennas and they don't have quite the same shape of the plastic, and his mounts may not work. So his idea here was he's just going to come up with this one mount that sort of zips around and can work with just about any antenna. And that's fantastic. Very, very cleverly designed. Prints flat, prints without supports, prints in about 10 or 15 minutes. I think this is actually a little slower, but it's a fast, efficient. It's just well designed in every sense of the word, and we're very happy to share it. So there's links to that in the video description if you want to grab that.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
It's time for everybody's favorite segment.
Oh.
It's barely news.
We need like a it's barely news.
Yeah, some kind of graphic or something
kind of
that pops in.
Yeah,
with
whatever those are called.
Little jingle. All right.
Well, that's it. That was it right there.
Yeah.
I just did it.
First up, we've got a plane that's edible, or at least partially edible.
I mean, if you believe rice cakes are food.
That's true. With edible styrofoam is what this plane comes with. Yeah, so basically, this is kind of interesting. This is like a project that some guys did. I'm not sure how practical this is, but it's kind of interesting. They were trying to combine food with drones or vehicles. And this one, they created a plane with rice cakes. So you could fly it to someone who's stranded. You could find them, and at the same time, you could give them food.
That's the no.
I don't think this is very practical, but it is something I've never seen before.
They 100% came up with that idea after they were sitting around. Somebody was like, "What if we made a drone where like you could eat the wings?" And then they ran with it. And then later they had to justify it to their faculty advisor, and they were like, "Oh, it's about rescuing people." But okay, clever. It's cute.
Yeah. Also, hope you don't fly through a flock of birds.
Or the rain.
Or the rain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it does seem a little. Yeah. All right.
I would be way more positive. This is cute. This is clever, but it involves rice cakes, and rice cakes are awful. So I'm gonna be down on it. That's what tips the balance.
Rice cakes though are probably the most similar to foam that you would build. I mean,
obviously,
with, right?
Build me a plane where the wings are made of sausages and fly it to an island where there are some stranded dogs and crash the plane so the dogs eat the sausages and the GoPro captures the whole thing. 1,000,000 views.
Fair enough.
Build me a plane out of rice cakes? No, 0 views.
All right.
Okay.
Next up, drones will walk your dogs with GPS. So if you really just don't aren't worried about the interaction of your dog with people or anything like that, you can now walk your dog with a drone. So
what? Okay.
This company is selling a product called ProFlight Walkies dog drones, which have a built-in retractable leash, hand-free piloting, and runs at an auto altitude. So just above the dog.
There's so much. Okay, the website doesn't exist. I clicked on the website. It doesn't exist. It just goes to Drones Direct. So I'm not convinced that this is a product you can actually buy. There's so much that's wrong with this.
Well, like $2,300.
That's just a... Listen, I don't know about you, but my dog... When I have my dog on the leash, and this is my fault as an owner that there are no bad dogs, there are only bad owners. I believe that. He's at the end of the leash, tugging and pulling every moment of the walk, trying to run, to smell or sniff or pee on something. And if I were to try to walk him with a drone, here's what it would look like. Boop, 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 boop. Well, the drone just sort of falls. The dog just drags it around the yard. Like,
absolutely.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you have a well-trained dog that will follow the drone. All right. Now, are you going to just send the drone out onto the city streets? Is it going to like crash into people? He set
a GPS coordinate and it follows the GPS route.
Okay. So if I live on like a big empty field or in the desert, then I can like walk my dog into the middle of the desert. Oh, here it is, Blunty. You set a GPS coordinate. The drone walks your dog out to the middle of the desert. Then the drone shuts down. Now your dog is lost. Now you use another drone to find the dog and bring it food. Yeah. Now we're getting there.
There you go. Okay.
Next.
All right. Next up. This is kind of an interesting application. We've talked before about many different versions of drone light shows. We talked last week about Candy Crush, who's doing a drone light show for advertising. This week, we've got Sky Elements drones who decided to send this guy on a date with a girl who was actually wasn't there to date him, and instead showed a picture of his face in this guy in drones in the middle of his city, and then put his phone number up and said he needed a date.
Okay. Do we want to show the money shot? Okay. That's cute. It looked better before they zoomed in when it was all blurry. Kind of blurred it into an image of his face. I don't think you should put your phone number above a city. I think that's you're going to get a lot of
Oh, he did.
phone calls.
Oh, he did.
Is this legit? Did this really happen? Or is
It
this just
seems
a stunt?
legit. I don't know. It seems legit. I mean, they did a lot of faking. If so, they played a bunch of voicemails from people, and I don't know. It's very possible it's fake, but
So he
seems
basically did but she agreed to have the date with him.
it's a fake lady.
Who was
They hired
pranking
her.
who?
The rest of the people from the drone company hired her and said she was from Tinder, but she wasn't from Tinder.
So
She
they
was from-
used this guy in their advertising.
Yes.
They
Yes.
hired an actress, and they
The whole
said, "Go
video
on."
was the whole video was about how bad he is at getting dates. He can never get dates. He's horrible at Tinder. They
did
tried
his-
to get him dates before.
His friends were in on this.
Yes.
I see. So his friends hired this person to catfish him, and
Pretty
then
much.
instead of going out
And
with
he-
him,
Yes.
they did a drone show where
Yes.
they put his number above the city.
Yes.
I'm not really following. Is this what's the intended outcome of this?
To get him a
Does
bunch
she-
of dates, which according to the voicemail, a bunch of
I
people
see.
were like, "That's interesting enough for me to go out with you." So,
I see. So then women in the city saw the Kyle needs a date and called the number,
yes.
or men, or whoever.
Yeah.
I'm not trying
Yeah.
to judge. Why didn't they just hire the drone company to put his number above? Why did they have to do the whole thing with the catfishing woman?
Well, because they wanted they didn't want him to know. I mean, it was supposed to be like a prank instead of just like a, "Hey, here's a way to get you dates." It's supposed to be like a sort of a.
So he thought he was going on a date,
Yeah.
and instead he gets to where the date is going to be, and in
Yes.
the sky is
I
his
feel
phone
like-
number.
Yeah, this is no longer. It's barely news at this point.
I feel like I'm missing some component where this becomes entertaining or funny. I don't know. I'm not following it. Did he get a date?
Yeah, he got like 1,800 phone calls or something. He got like
That's
some
too
ridiculous amount
many.
of phone calls. They were
I mean,
his
I guess.
voicemail filled up in like 3 minutes or something.
They should have put his Tinder handle.
Yeah.
Right? That
I
would have
don't
been.
know.
Then he could have just been like swipe, swipe, swipe,
Can
swipe,
you-
swipe, swipe, swipe,
Is,
swipe.
okay. Is that how Tinder works? I don't think that's how Tinder
don't
works.
Isn't Tinder the swiping one?
Yeah, but I don't think you can like type somebody's name in and pull them up. I could be wrong.
You really think you ought to be able
I think
to
it's
do
all
that.
organic, right?
I don't know. I'm not on Tinder. I'm a happily married something or other. Also, when I went on Tinder, nobody swiped me. So
Yeah. All right.
okay, let's never talk about that again.
Last up, we've got a drone show mishap. Before we've talked about drones falling in the out of the sky from a show, and they blamed it on a bunch of drones in the area, FPV drones. This time, they didn't really have much to blame it on. They just said shit went bad, basically. They were doing a 500 drone show in Perth, Australia, Sunday night, City of Lights. And 50 of the display's 500 drones encountered difficulty, and they fell into the water below.
No,
he said
get back
they're-
in there.
He said they're around $2,000 a drone, so he lost about $100,000 in the water. They sent divers out trying to collect as many as they could afterwards.
I mean, for $2,000, sure, hire a diver.
Yeah, I guess it's $100,000 AUD, 66,000 US. But yeah, it's interesting though. Some of the information he said was kind of surprised me a little bit. He said if there's any wind interference, drones do hit each other. That does happen. Propeller snap. There are things that go wrong. 2 or 3 drones falling per show is normal. Last night was not normal.
$6,000
kinda-
show is normal. Wow.
I thought that was
they probably
interesting
don't.
that
Yeah.
out of 500 drones, you're expecting to lose 3, like fall out of the air. So that's I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
I guess they usually don't fall in the river, though. They would fall potentially on the ground. Maybe you get them back.
Yeah. Depends where you're at, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, cost of doing business, I suppose.
Yes,
Cost
yes,
of
it
doing
is.
business. All righty. Well,
All right.
that, we did it. We're even almost on time. We managed to not talk about DJI for the whole time. I'm so proud of us. So proud of us.
Yeah.
Before you go, I got some super chats to read. Thank you guys who left super chats. I'm going to read those in just a second. But before that, we're going to take just a second and we're going to plug our pluggables. If you guys need help figuring out what to buy in the world of FPV, my website is fpvknowitall.com, and it's got the ultimate FPV shopping list. We just added the toothpick page. So if you're looking to build a toothpick or buy and fly toothpick, we've got suggestions here. And we don't just tell you what to buy, we tell you why. We justify it with some explanations in text, and encourage you to use that if you're looking for help.
Yeah. Also got my website. It's blunty.com, where you can find my Patreon link easily for you to get there if you'd like to give me some money every month. Or you can find my troubleshooting page where you can find out how to contact me. I charge $50 an hour or free if you just like to chat one-on-one over text. I'm always happy to do that for free. But you're a call or a team viewer, some kind of remote desktop stuff, or just viewing your screen, I'll be happy to charge you $50 an hour and fix whatever you got, pretty much whatever you got. So let me know if you got some issues.
Yeah, people are always asking me, hey, JB, can I get on the phone with you? And I'd also do that, but I have other things I like to do to make money. That's not how I prefer to make money, so I charge too much for the one-on-one calls. And you seem to charge less. So, and you're just as smart and capable as me. So people should 100% hire you if they need one-on-one help. We also have searchfpv.com. SearchFPV. This is a multi-store search engine for FPV products. We've just added iFlight, just got added. We're just adding more stores, more and more stores, and it helps solve one of the problems with FPV, which is you can't find stuff that's in stock or you can't figure out what stores have it. So we can choose in stock only, and we could just, let's do this, Blunty. O3 Air Unit. Let's see who's got the O3 Air Unit in stock. Boom. Here we go. Loading the results. Now we rely on the stores to return the search results. So sometimes we get results that aren't exactly what we might have been searching for. Like here we seem to be flagging the word air unit and getting, but okay, that's how searching works sometimes. Looking through for the O3 Air Unit. Not a lot of people seem to have it. Wow, let me try quotes. What if I try quotes? Does it work with quotes? Come on, Eirik. Eirik, I know you made quotes work, right, dude? The pressure's on. Boom, that's better. Race day quads. O3 Air Unit in stock. Getfpv, O3 Air Unit. Pre-order. Interesting. So there we go. We can easily find which stores have it. Searchfpv.com. And there's one more thing. Live stream clips. If you don't get to watch every single one of my live streams, then check out the Joshua Bardwell live stream clips channel. Highlights of all my live streams, including the news. And Blunty, you do the work on that. You do good work. How's that going?
Good. I go through all your live streams and pull the clips out and get them here for the people so they can check them out at their leisure.
Yeah. So we'll love to have you as a subscriber over there. Okay, let's read the super chats then. Cliff and Cajun, thank you for a $5 super chat. FPV live option with the ability to stabilize live out. Think live streaming on a sub 250. Cliff and Cajun, I think you're asking about the O3 Air Unit. It does have live out, but it doesn't stabilize the live view. So the O3 wouldn't do that. I mean, there's cameras out there that'll stabilize the live out. I can't think of one off the top of my head, though. Like some of the split cameras, maybe? I don't know. John R., thank you for a $2 super chat. Doesn't seem to have a question, just a donation, so thank you. And P and Stuff, thanks for a $5 super chat. Should beginners wait to get bind and fly systems with the O3 Air Unit, or should they buy them with Caddx Vista? What do you think, Blunty?
I mean, if you don't care about money, then yes, you should probably wait. I mean, I don't know. If you're a new pilot, and you don't have an expectation, you know what I mean, and you don't have units already, like, I don't know, it seems like you would probably just want the new thing.
Yeah. I know that bind and flies are coming. It's not going to take very long. In fact, I would be surprised if there weren't some for sale today.
Yeah, I know iFlight has been showing a bunch of teasers, so I know iFlight's going to have a line of them. I don't know who else will.
I'm surprised they wouldn't have dropped on the day of release.
Mr. Steel has is $900 Mr. Steel Apex with a O3 Air unit in it, so you can, of course, he does, buy or not buy that. But otherwise, I'm not sure I saw too much. So
okay, they're coming though. They're going to be coming. The question, I think, is just a question of money versus quality. The O3 is pretty freaking baller. It's just a question of, do you want to pay extra for what it has to offer?
Yeah, I think is the $60+ you're going to pay difference for that unit going to be worth it to you? And I don't know. For a beginner, that's going to be hard to say, right?
Yeah, some beginners have a lot of money and just want to like buy the best. Others are scraping money together. One thing to keep in mind is, which goggles do you have? If you have the V2 goggles, you could choose either. If you have the goggles 2, as of today, you can't buy into the Vista. They say they're going to release that soon, but as of today, you couldn't do that. So, all right, that is it. Is iFlight not DJI anyways? Madstick is making a joke. They're not. That's a common misconception. Because Phantom FPV, hey, good to see you dropping in, man. Always nice to see your name in the chat. I am Destructor Man. Thanks for a $10 super chat. Saying just thanks for the news. All right, folks, that's going to wrap us up for today. We'll see you next week for more news. But until then, that's going to do it. Oh, and if you have any news that we need to include, make sure to email news@fpvknowitall.com.
Yeah, let us know.
All right.